Alrighty, guys, after a little bit of a pause, the MCU, because it is now the MCU, Defender Saga rewatch continues. And it's actually not even really a rewatch anymore. It is more like a first-time watching, because today we are going to be talking about perhaps the most controversial / disliked series in the Defenders canon, that is Iron Fist, and specifically Iron Fist Season 1. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, we like to, what I've been doing thus far, we have our DCE rewatch going as well, and I just really haven't had a chance to release those episodes. I have many in the backlog, but really those episodes are being saved for a rainy day, and I have a lot of those in the backlog. But in the meantime, as we are also doing the DCE rewatch, we are also doing a Defenders Saga rewatch / watching for the first time, because for background context, I have seen Daredevil seasons 1 through 3 and the Defenders prior to this year, but I had not seen any of the other shows because I tried Jessica Jones a little bit and I wasn't super thrilled with what I saw, and so I just decided to watch Daredevil and focus on his character. And now, as I was gearing up for Daredevil Born Again season 1, I decided let's rewatch Daredevil season 1. And after I finished it, I thought, well, maybe we'll try Jessica Jones again, and I got through that. And at the time, Jessica Jones was confirmed around the time I was finishing up Jessica Jones season 1, I think, to be appearing in Daredevil Born Again season 2. So it only reaffirmed my decision to then go through the entire Defender Saga, which has been honestly pretty fun thus far. Not many complaints, although none of the shows, I think, reached the peak of Daredevil seasons 1 and 2 thus far, but still, it's been fun. It's been fun. And so we're going to, and again, with teases from Mike Coulter, and even we talked about Elektra last week, and maybe she'll appear, and Punisher's appearing in Spider-Man Brand New Day, so I haven't seen Punisher, the show. Obviously I saw him in Daredevil season 2, so I'm excited to be doing this. And so we continue on in chronological order, in release order, rather, although I think most of the shows are in chronological order, with Iron Fist, season 1. Now, Iron Fist, I know, is relatively disliked. I knew that going in. I knew that out of all four characters, maybe Mike Coulter shows up in Daredevil Born Again season 1 or season 2, but it just seems unlikely that Iron Fist is going to appear because Finn Jones's portrayal of the character and the season as a whole, the seasons rather, because there is a second season coming up, are relatively disliked. And I knew that. But I also am somebody who goes in to all of these projects with as open of a mind as possible. I am totally fine if I am the one person who loves Iron Fist and no one else does. Totally fine with it. I want to enjoy as much of these projects as I possibly can, because it's for my own enjoyment that I'm doing this, honestly. And if I hate all of them, then that really sucks for me, right? And then, of course, we're here to talk about them, but I'm not just doing content for the sake of content. I want to like all of these projects. And thus far, obviously, I love Daredevil season 1, and I really like Daredevil season 2. I had some problems with Jessica Jones. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't hate it or anything like that. And I liked Luke Cage season 1, though I also think that show was a tale of two seasons. So we head into Iron Fist. And here's the interesting thing about Iron Fist season 1. Again, first time I've ever seen the entire season, from beginning to end. I actually, as I was watching the first maybe 4, 5, 6 out of the 13 episodes, was saying to myself, am I gonna be that one person who loves Iron Fist? I say love. I say love. I should have said liked. I was saying to myself, am I gonna be the one person who says, oh, I actually really like Iron Fist? Because, truthfully speaking, and I don't know what your guys' consensus on this is. All I know is that most people don't like it. I don't know what parts they don't like or anything like that. But as I was watching the first half of the season, I was thinking, this is interesting. This is pretty compelling. I quite liked the beginning parts of the season that dealt with the sort of corporate espionage and Danny Rand taking his name back. And look, I know, and I acknowledge, that Finn Jones's performance as Iron Fist is a little lackluster. I get that. And we'll talk about some of the other performances later, mainly Bakuto. Oh my goodness, Bakuto. But, while his performance was lackluster, it never took me entirely out of the show, per se. And I thought that the idea of trying to reclaim his name, and then there was some intriguing backstory with Kun Lun and the Iron Fist, I thought the setup actually was interesting, with the Meachums, with Joy, with Ward, with Harold obviously coming back to life, and also introducing Colleen Wing. I was pretty on board with the first few episodes, also introducing Madame Gao as the main villain, we thought, entering the first half of the season. I liked it. I was enjoying the season. And not to say that the second half, I just hated every second of it, but the second half really lost me. And so as I was, the more I watched the show after the halfway point, I was really, every single episode did something that I was like, what is going on? Why is this happening? What happened to this show? And really, to me, the failures of Iron Fist, in my opinion, come down to the writing. Because I don't know if Finn Jones is a Hayden Christensen type situation where if he had just been given a better script, he would have been totally fine. I don't know if it's on his acting ability, because to be fair to him, the stuff that he was being given to say is just, it is Star Wars prequel level stuff. I get that Danny Rand is a fish out of water. And I get that he's not saying, he's saying, I am the Iron Fist and I'm the protector of Kunlun and I am the living weapon. And I get that he's not supposed to be, a normal everyday New Yorker. I get, he was, but then he comes back from the monastery. I get that. But some of the stuff that he has to say and some of the delivery is just, it's some of it is a little bit unbearable. And speaking of unbearable, right, we'll talk about performances now. While I really liked some of the performances here, I quite like Jessica Henwick as Colleen Wing, although she, especially towards the second half, also had some unbearable dialogue. But I actually quite liked her as a character. I found that Joy and Ward were, actually Joy mostly, I thought Joy was pretty good. Ward was a little bit unbearable towards the end as well. Again, I don't know if it's the actor's fault, I don't know his name, apologies off the top of my head, but I don't know if it was the performance or the writing. It could be both, but the writing, the stuff that he was being given to say was not great. Harold, I thought the actor who played Harold was pretty good. He did a good job. But again, just kind of given that maniacal villain turn later on. And Claire Temple. I have to say, I love Rosario Dawson, and I think she's great. And every single time she appears in the Defender Saga, I'm going, okay, yeah, sure, makes sense. And every time she shows up in the next project, I'm progressively growing more and more wary of the connections of why she needs to be in the show. So Daredevil, I'm like, okay, he meets somebody, he needs somebody to heal him. That makes sense. Jessica Jones, at the very end, I'm like, okay, yeah, makes sense that she ends up at a hospital and she has to save Luke Cage. Neat little connection there. Luke Cage, I'm like, okay, she returns to her home and she just happens to get caught up in the Luke Cage stuff. Okay. And then Iron Fist was the straw that broke the camel's back. I'm like, why are you in this story? What purpose does this character serve to this story other than just to say, I'm here? I love Claire Temple. I love Rosario Dawson. I don't understand. Why are you in this show? It just feels tenuous. A lot of the writing here feels tenuous. And getting back to the performances, but also the writing, oh my goodness, all the stuff with Davos and all the stuff with Bakuto towards the second half was so bad and so over the top, dramatic, melodramatic, and none of it was developed either. Bakuto came out of nowhere and was like, hello, I am Bakuto. I am here to destroy you. Isn't that nice, Danny Rand? And I'm like, oh my goodness, what are we doing here? Because honestly, I find Madame Gao to be a pretty compelling villain. Let's stop there. Let's have Madame Gao really be the villain of the series. Instead, Madame Gao is relegated to prison for the second half of the season, and then she just kind of shows up at the end. And the stuff with Davos, again, I don't know if it's the actor's fault. I don't want to blame anybody, right? It's not, I'm not saying anyone was out here to make the worst product. I'm not saying anything like that. But, I mean, the kinds of things that they're forced to say, Bakuto and Davos and Danny, and it's like, oh my goodness, stop saying, oh, we had a fight and we had a falling out. Show don't tell is a phrase that I think gets overused, honestly. Sometimes you do need to talk about things. Honestly, that's my opinion. I think that in writing, sometimes you do need to tell. But you can't just only tell. It's a mix of show and tell, not show don't tell. But it's not just tell. I mean, these characters are talking all about their problems and their traumas, and Davos and Danny are going through all these things. And by the time we get to the end of the show, I'm like, what in the world happened? Because again, it's disappointing to me because the first half of this show, the first half of season 1 of Iron Fist, I was on board with. I really thought was interesting. I also know that there are some other controversies around the casting of some of the characters and whatnot. I wasn't watching the show when it came out, and I don't know what the controversies exactly were. I did a little bit of reading on the Wikipedia page and whatnot. So all that aside, we're not here to talk about any of that kind of stuff. Just purely based on what we see in the show. I thought the show had promise at the beginning. I was like, this is an interesting corporate espionage. The idea of corporations and cold-hearted capitalism versus what's right. And I think that stuff is interesting. And the second half of the show decides to just tailspin into all these different directions, and none of them are particularly interesting. I guess Harold coming back to life was kind of interesting. And I guess he's the main villain of the show, I guess, but I don't know. And again, the writing and the dialogue was really what did it in for me. I don't inherently hate Finn Jones as Iron Fist. I think that he could have been given a lot better stuff to do. I also think that maybe Iron Fist inherently is not an interesting character. And I know that that's silly to say because you can make any concept interesting. I truly believe that. We had a Lego movie and it was awesome. No pun intended with that movie. We've had a Barbie movie and that movie was awesome, right? You can have any concept inherently and make it good. I truly believe that. The way that they executed on the Iron Fist, though, the glowing hand and the chi, always talking about the chi. Like, so I remember in the Defenders that they make fun of him for that, and I think that that's maybe being a little bit more self-aware. I don't know, maybe season 2 of Iron Fist is better because they're a little more self-aware and the writing is different and better. Maybe, I hope so, because all the stuff about you could focus my chi and I'm the Iron Fist, and I was just like, oh my goodness. So again, I know I'm probably joining a chorus of people who say this is thus far, right? We have Daredevil, we have Jessica Jones, Daredevil season 2, Luke Cage, and now Iron Fist. This is my least favorite out of the 5. That being said, I don't think the entire thing is unsalvageable. I liked a decent part of it. I also, it wasn't so much of a train wreck that I was like, I need to turn this thing off. It is boring me to death, or it is making me want to cry and cringe. Nothing like that. I'm just disappointed because really the setup for the show was quite promising. I also think it probably suffers a little bit, although I know that the Hand is the typical villain for Iron Fist. It also, I know this now in hindsight because of Defenders, was probably doing a little bit too much to set up what was going on in Defenders, although I think Daredevil Season 2 was suffering from that same problem, and I think Daredevil Season 2 was much more successful in terms of its execution of the Hand and whatnot. I'm really disappointed because I wanted to like Finn Jones as Iron Fist, and I think he's fine. I think he could have been given a lot better material to do. And I'm interested to see now his interactions with Luke Cage, because I know that that's coming up in future seasons of the Defender Saga. But, it's just hard, because by the end of the season, they're going in so many different directions. Claire goes to China with them for some reason, because I got sick of her being like, it's my destiny, it's my fate to meet these people. It doesn't have to, like, you could just be somebody who has connections in New York City, for all we know. Because now you're randomly showing up in Iron Fist for no reason. Again, I thought the twist with I like Colleen, and I thought the twist with her being a part of the Hand was interesting. I think the part about the Hand being split up into different factions with Gao and Bakuto kind of warring over what to do could have been explored way more, but was an interesting concept. I think that Davos and Danny, that's somewhat interesting. Again, that's being set up. I thought the twist not the twist, but the character turn for Joy at the end of the season, completely turning on Danny, was out of nowhere. Nothing in this series really set that up emotionally, at least. In terms of story beats, it might have been set up. But again, I just think that this show, it had so many things it wanted to do. It was burdened by a lack of sharp writing. And perhaps the performances as well. Even the fight sequences were not as interesting. By the time we got to the end, I was like, okay, I am ready to see him in a team. I'm ready to see him in the Defenders. I am ready for this chapter to close. So, again, I know I probably am not a singular opinion in saying I did not particularly enjoy Iron Fist Season 1. I wanted to. I was for a certain amount of time, for a certain number of episodes. But now we are ready to flip the page. Because, guys, the next series up is the Defenders, and this is going to be an official rewatch. I have seen the Defenders, but I'm very excited now because, look, we've kind of trudged through Iron Fist, and I didn't love all of Jessica Jones, and I thought Luke Cage left me a little wanting, but I'm excited because I have their full contexts now. I know the supporting characters, Misty Knight and Colleen Wing, Trish Walker, I think, from Jessica Jones. I know all the supporting characters. Hogarth showing up in Iron Fist actually meant something to me now. So I'm excited to see all these characters interact, because that's at least something where, look, even if the individual seasons all didn't work for me, I think that their interactions together are going to be pretty fun. And I'm very interested to see how the Defenders shapes up upon rewatch with this new context. So, guys, those are my thoughts on Iron Fist Season 1. The Defender Saga watch, rewatch, first watch, I don't know what you want to call it, continues, and I'm very excited for what comes next. Punisher also is coming up as well. So let me know what you thought about Iron Fist Season 1 in the comments down below.